So we're about 4 days from the election, and as predicted, we've got the increase of COVID media, panic, everything is worse even though deaths are way down. The sky is falling, talking about second waves all over the world. Yesterday we had the news of terrorism, beheadings because of cartoons of Muhammad. The same cover story they used for Benghazi. We've got the Hunter Biden laptop, evidence all over the place, emails, documents, signatures, incriminating photos. Most mainstream media won't touch it, won't cover it, hiding it up, big tech censoring it. I see that Mark Zuckerberg was named in there with dealings with Hunter Biden. You've got two candidates on the Democrat side, Joe and Camilla, supporting these new energy policies, getting rid of our energy. We become energy dependent on Donald Trump, not dependent on Middle East oil or anybody's oil or gas. And in the meantime, the last 4 or 5 years, you've got Hunter Biden going all over the world securing deals with foreign governments having to do with energy, oil and gas. $1.5 billion buying up a automotive business in America for stealth technology for their J-20 fighter jet. So you've got Hunter Biden with gas contract deals in Russia, Romania, Kazakhstan, Ukraine, China, Colombia, Venezuela, and who knows where else. Does that make much sense? If you're running a Green New Deal type platform, you should be doing business in windmills, you would think. But I guess if you own the White House and you own the Congress and you own the United States, you can cut production to oil, you can put all kind of regulations in, up taxes, make it impossible to drill, frack, whatever. And then what would happen? You corner the market with foreign, some being adversaries. You would raise the price of that natural gas. The demand would go way up, price would go way up. And China and Ukraine and all these places, these gangsters would get rich. Venezuela, Hugo Chavez, all get rich, and the Bidens would get their payoffs, their kickbacks, their 3.5% or 7%, whatever their take is on top of the initial bribe money. So you've got a large portion of America over the past couple decades of wanted that market share in China, and they've sold out to the Chinese. Chinese don't have any problem giving money out to these people. They know they're easily compromised because they're weak people. They're worried more about their success than they are about any type of patriotism or country. They've sold us out, and maybe even maybe America was planned on being a thing of the past. Bill Clinton said something quite some time ago, maybe, I don't know, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. Somebody said something about us being a superpower, and he says, well, what about when America is no longer a superpower? It's kind of a weird thing for a former president to say out of his mouth. I'd like to believe that with America, you could always stay on top of the world. I'm not sure what would cause another nation to pass us up. We've created and done things before and better than almost every nation on the world in every sector, and I don't know why he would see the future being different than most Americans, but I guess if you have inside information, maybe you would. So 4 days from now, Trump won the electoral map, handily. What was it, 307? He needed 270, 306, something like that. People like me didn't vote for Donald Trump the first go around, but I guarantee, I took vacation time off to make sure I go cast this vote. And the Antifa side, the BLM side, the cartoons of Muhammad side, everybody knows that there's a red wave coming on Tuesday, election day. And if I was a gambling man, I'd bet that they're going to do everything they can to prevent people from going to the polls on that Tuesday. I look for a complete shift in narrative come Sunday or Monday. The rise in the racial violence is going up. You've got, malls in St. Louis already boarding their windows up in anticipation. You've got cities all over the place, planning on this. And this isn't Trump people. The only people that are tearing stuff up, burning stuff, breaking windows, stealing stuff, those are all Biden supporters. You want to talk about a better America, and you want to go vote for, it doesn't even make sense for normal people, working people, family people, whether you be Democrat or Republican or non-political, normal people that are trying to raise a family, have a life, trying to live the American dream, no matter what race or ethnicity or your gender is. You don't want to burn stuff and tear stuff up, and why would you want to put yourself on the side of somebody like that? Why would you want to associate yourself like that? And maybe you did believe in some ideals that somebody said they had at one time, but once you see for yourself that your people are doing horrible things, why would you want to go ahead and align yourself with that? I can't imagine that. There's a lot of people that don't normally vote that are going to vote this time. This will be historic, one way or the other. So we've got voter fraud we've been watching. We've got terrorism's been the thing of the past since, Trump kind of wiped out a bunch of them. We've been bringing our troops home, been making Middle East peace deals, renegotiating trade contracts. We just reported 33.1% GDP growth for the third quarter, which is insane. GDP type growth is usually, 1%, 2%, 3%. 33% is just a stupid number. That's insane. I don't even know how they got to there. And that's one that's even hard for me to believe. I don't understand it, but it's time to prosper. The country's kind of divided into two different groups right now. It's the glass half empty type of people that think it's all going to run away, run out, and the glass half full that's going to get fuller. And you see it a lot, and especially in young people. They really have this tendency to think that they've lived the hardest lifetime, or they've had it roughest, and they try to compete with each other about, woe is me, how bad is my life? And they have no idea or no respect for what people like my grandparents went through to give us what we have, things that my parents went through, even things that I went through. These kids have had a soft upbringing, but they've had a mentally tormented upbringing as well. There's a lot more single parent homes. There's a lot more, life seems to be busier. Parents have to work, and you have a lot more addiction and drug problems coming in. A lot of kids raising themselves, and then you introduce the screen. You introduce social media, and their influences seem to not really be in the real world. They seem to be online and magnified, and big tech and social media and all that stuff. They know how to tweak you. They know how to, even with Facebook, they don't show me those normal people posts very often. They show me people I disagree with on the nonstop because they know it'll get a reaction out of me. And I'm sure they do the same with them. They show things that I might post because they know it'll get a reaction out of them. And they need that emotional drive. That emotion is a very good tool to manipulate people. People that think logically, it's a little harder to manipulate, but emotional creatures, people that have had that trauma in their life, they're much easier to push buttons on, to trigger. And when you see things, I mean, I'm watching commercials on TV about women's rights, and I mean, man, we're past that. You know, as far as I'm concerned, women run the world. They want to talk about, you know, this black-white thing or something of that sorts. And I know never in my life have you seen more or less indifference to what race you are, what color you are, what background, or if you're gay or straight, or, and especially in the younger population. You know, you look at these young kids and they're almost, I mean, they're almost, if you even insinuate, sometimes you can even just say a color, or if you just say somebody is gay, they automatically have a reaction. You can't talk about that, or something like that. And even if you're not saying something negative, you know, you can't even describe what somebody is, you know. It's almost like they don't appreciate people's differences, you know. Yeah, we've got a lot of commonalities in each other, but it's our differences that make us special and different, and you know, not just a clone race, a slave race. You know, everybody's talented in different ways, and it takes all those different talents put together to make a great country like we have. And I just don't see the racial division that they want to portray on TV, and they sure do juice it up. It's a necessity, you know. I've said for at least a decade that the key to America and the key to changing the world is going to be the black population, when they realize that they can. And you see it every single day. You see people of different ethnicities rising to the top, doing great things without the help of government, you know, through motivation, through belief in themselves, and that stands in the way of the powers that be. And we keep putting this to the left versus right, and maybe it is a little left versus right now, but the whole time this could never have been done with just the left. This always took both sides. You could never have just one side being the evil side. It just wouldn't work. It'd be exposed. And I could go in deep about people from the right, and I align myself more with the right, you know. That's just who I am. I can't help that. But I know a lot of dirty right people, and I know a lot of dirty left people. And the problem right now is there's nobody on the left standing up for actual justice and fighting corruption. And you see these people doing these deals, and you know, where you've got Nancy Pelosi and her nephew Gavin Newsom, and you know, the father used to be the mayor of Baltimore, and you know, these elite ruling families are the problem. You know, the Bushes, the Clintons, the Pelosi's, and I'm sure there's dozens more. But Trump has never been the problem. Trump is the difference in what it's always been. It's always been something else. It's always been, you know, finally we have somebody that's not exactly the same, who's not getting richer because he's a politician, who's losing money because he's a politician. Usually people get into politics to, you know, steal money to help themselves. You know, how does a person like Nancy Pelosi, being in the House for what, 30 some years, 33 years, how does somebody making, you know, $160,000 to $240,000 a year end up being worth $150 million? You know, that's just not the way. It's not the way we should be working. You know, it used to be service was an honor and a duty. It wasn't a profitable moment. You know, and maybe we'll get back to that someday. Maybe we'll get back to normal people. You know, school teachers and farmers and bankers and people from all walks of life coming together for session to discuss things and to vote on things. You know, we act like we need a new law every week, and I don't think we do. We've got so many laws on the books right now. It's who the hell even knows what the laws are? You know, common sense should rule the day. Don't do things that harm others, you know. I don't think legislation and new laws speak to a politician's greatness. I think sometimes less is more. Sometimes letting people just be people and letting one another live. I got a letter from the homeowners association about weeds by my mailbox. There was 2 weeds. There's some creepy dude out walking around the house taking pictures, around the neighborhood. To what? Have a petty party? It's time we let one another live and who wants to get in the way of another person's happiness? It's not what America was ever about. Let's not become that. So go out there, exercise your right to vote. Do yourself a favor, look into this laptop, especially if you're, not on the right side, if you happen to be on the left side. I think no matter who wins the election, the laptop thing's not going away, and it's going to keep implicating new names and get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's a lot of people out there that probably already regret their vote from early voting. But I guarantee you, a week from now, 2 weeks from now, there's going to be millions of people regretting their vote. So do your due diligence and look at the information and think, if I've got a guy telling me we need to quit oil and his son's out there getting millions of dollars securing foreign oil and foreign gas instead of American stuff. See, in America, we've got a lot of rules and a lot of people looking at you. It's a lot harder to get away with stuff. When you go to countries like China, they don't care about corruption. They care about themselves. They don't care what you do. They don't care if you diddle little kids. They don't care if you do crack cocaine. As long as they get their power, their money, they don't care. You can get away with whatever you want. If you do them dirty, you might find yourself at the bottom of the river, but I just don't see how you can square the thing, You look at the emails and it directly implicates Joe Biden. This is like 100 times worse than what they accused Trump and impeached Trump for. More than 100 times. Everything that they accused Trump of and a whole lot more. They've got documentation. They've got actual evidence, real evidence, not fake paid for political smear jobs with no corroborating evidence. This is the real stuff, the stuff that you were so offended by 3 years ago and 2 years ago and 4 years ago. Do you really want to vote for something worse than what you've been so offended for 4 years? So I don't know. Be kind to each other. Kind of leave this partisan stuff, this bickering and fighting, because a lot of people are going to have a lot of, you're going to have to look at yourself just a little bit different after this, There's always been a cover-up, a cover story. A lot of people fell for the cover story. They still haven't lifted up the blanket and saying, hey, wait a minute, these guys are doing business with the communist Chinese and letting communist China invade us without even sending a single soldier. I don't want to be China. They're already burning books in this country, stopping public, New York Post and thousands of independent journalists, politicians, the censorship. You're talking Nazi tactics, Chinese tactics, communist. This is communist stuff. This is not freedom. This is not our first. There's a reason it's the First Amendment. Freedom of speech is important. If you don't have freedom of speech, and that's freedom of, the best thing about a bad idea and bad information is if you put it out there, people can, push back on it and stop it and, embarrass you from even putting it out there. If somebody's so wrong, don't make them not talk. Let them talk more. Let them make the fool of themselves. You don't just silence it. When somebody's being silenced like that, it's because they don't want you to know what that person has to say. And that should be suspect right there. So be aware, be vigilant. Watch out for people doing bad things. Don't get yourself involved in that. Don't stoop to their level either. That's what they want. They need this civil war. They need to be able to call the United Nations and bring foreign troops onto our soil like we do all the time. Let's stay strong, keep America nice and beautiful, and the shining light on the sea, and all that happy stuff that we used to sing songs about. Let's be that people. And these kids, and by God, your kids, man, stop telling them they can't become something because of something. Tell them whatever you put your mind to and work for, there's a way to get it. Lead by example. Be safe, guys.